The story is about a man who goes to live in a very old house, but after moving there, he starts experiencing strange and scary incidents. Later, it is revealed that around 50 to 60 years ago, a young woman lived in this house with her cruel husband. She wanted to escape from him. Because of this, she somehow travels from the past to the present using time travel. Slowly, the hero and this woman start meeting, and these meetings turn into love. But friends, can love really survive between the past and the present? Will they be able to stay together or not? And at the end, there is a shocking twist that no one expects. So without wasting any time, let's begin. The story starts with our hero, Brian. Brian is a billionaire and runs a big app development company with many branches. Right now, he is busy working in his head office. Suddenly, a woman comes crying and places a ring on his desk, then leaves. She is Brian's fiancée and works in the same office. At first, Brian doesn't even notice her. Later, when he sees the ring, he looks out of the window and sees her leaving. He asks her why she returned the ring. She replies that they are not compatible and she doesn't want to get married. After this, Brian meets his doctor friend and tells him that his engagement has broken. The reason is simple. Brian never gave time to his fiancée. He was always busy with work. Once during a date, he suddenly left without informing her because of an office emergency. Fed up with this behavior, she finally ended the engagement. Friends, Brian's mind only thinks about business, how to grow more, earn more money, and buy more companies. Recently, he bought a small company far away from the city. To fix it, he has to stay in a small town for some time. So Brian packs his bags and goes there. As soon as he reaches the office, he understands why the company is in loss. The employees do everything except work. Just then, the manager Elena arrives and takes him to his cabin. Brian angrily asks why no one is working. Elena calmly replies that there is no work right now, but now that he has arrived, things will improve. Brian tells her that he needs a house on rent because he will stay in the town for a few months. Elena gives him the contact of a real estate agent. The agent shows him a house that is a bit far from the office. It is very old, but it is a beautiful mansion with a big garden. Brian likes it immediately, especially a bench in the middle of the garden, and decides to rent it. They meet the owner, who quickly agrees because no one has lived in that house for many years. That same night, Brian moves in. He feels very happy because he got such a big and peaceful house at a low rent. Brian starts clicking photos of the house. Suddenly, he sees the shadow of a girl at the window. Thinking someone has entered the house, he picks up a weapon and searches for her, shouting for her to come out, but there is no one there. Finally, Brian thinks it was just his imagination and stays quiet. The next day, Brian goes to the office. He checks on all the employees and clearly warns them, "From now on, if I see anyone wasting time, they will be fired." After work, Brian buys some household items and goes back home. Once there, he starts fixing small things by himself, like holes in the walls and leaking pipes. While doing this, he suddenly hears a woman's voice. Brian gets scared because the previous night he had also seen a woman's shadow and thought it was just his imagination. But this time, he clearly hears a voice. Then something even stranger happens. He is playing music, but suddenly speeches from the 1960s by John F. Kennedy start playing on their own. Brian doesn't believe in ghosts or spirits, but these strange events make him feel that something is seriously wrong with this house. Still, he ignores it and continues fixing the pipes. While cleaning, he finds an old chain with a locket attached to it. It looks very old. Just then, Brian sees a woman outside the house searching for something. He goes to her and asks who she is and what she is looking for. The woman looks shocked and asks Brian instead, "Who are you? And what are you doing in my house?" Brian finds her behavior strange and says that he rented this house just yesterday. During their argument, the woman says that her locket is missing and she is searching for it. When she sees the locket in Brian's hand, she says happily, "That's my locket. How did you get it?" Brian replies that he found it inside the pipe and asks her if she lived in this house before. The woman gets confused and says, "What do you mean lived here before? I still live here." She tries to take the locket from Brian's hand, but she cannot touch it at all. Now Brian gets nervous and thinks that she might be a ghost. Normally, anyone would run away in fear, but something unexpected happens. The woman suddenly screams, calls Brian a ghost, and runs inside the house. So now both of them think the other person is a ghost. As soon as the woman enters the house, the inside of the house completely changes. The furniture and decorations look like they are from the 1960s. This clearly shows that the woman is living in the year 1960. She runs inside and her husband asks why she is so scared. She nervously tells him that her locket fell outside and that she saw a ghost. Her husband's name is Thomas and the woman's name is Nora, the heroine of our story. Thomas is a very suspicious man. Instead of believing her, he scolds her and says there is no ghost. He accuses her of meeting some lover and creating drama. Then he picks up a shotgun and goes outside, shouting for the person to come out. Nora gets very scared. She is a kind and gentle woman who always thinks about others. She suddenly feels that the person she called a ghost might actually be a human, and Thomas could hurt him. So she quickly calms Thomas down and brings him back inside, saying it was just her imagination. At the same time, in the year 2010, Brian opens the door, but Nora is gone. He searches the entire house, but there is no sign of her anywhere. Anyone else would have packed their bags and left immediately, but Brian stays. That night, he sleeps in the same house. While sleeping, he hears Nora and Thomas arguing. Their voices from 1960 are somehow reaching Brian's timeline. This means there is a connection between the past and the present. Still, Brian does not panic much. He keeps the locket safely and continues focusing on his work. Later, he goes outside and carefully looks at the bench in the garden where he had seen Nora earlier. The next scene takes us to the year 1960. This is the past, showing the life of Nora and Thomas. Nora and Thomas have just gotten married and have come to live in this house. At first, they are happy and busy decorating their new home. To take care of the garden, they hire a gardener named Frank. Friends, the bench that we see in the garden in the present time was actually brought by Frank in a truck back in 1960. He carries it and places it carefully in the garden. But Thomas starts doubting Nora. He thinks that Nora and Frank might be having an affair. In reality, Frank is a very good and honest man. He has no wrong intentions at all, but Thomas is a very suspicious person. He angrily tells Frank to finish his work quickly and leave. Then Thomas asks him if he had come to the house the previous night. Frank clearly replies that he only works during the daytime and has no reason to come at night. After that, Thomas leaves for work. Frank then gently asks Nora why her husband is so angry. Nora replies that nothing is wrong and asks him to just focus on his work. But Frank can clearly see that Nora is hiding pain and fear inside her. Nora finds peace in the garden. She loves sitting there watching the trees, flowers, and plants. That is why she placed the bench there so carefully. Now in the present time, Brian asks Elena about the history of this house. Elena says that they have known this house since childhood. As kids, they used to play in the garden, but they don't know anything special about it. This makes the house a mystery for Brian. That night, Brian again sees Nora sitting on the garden bench and tries to talk to her. Nora gets scared and asks who he is and why he keeps coming to her house. She says that if her husband finds out, there will be trouble. Brian calmly asks her not to be afraid. He tells her that he recently rented the house and keeps seeing her again and again. He says that either she is a ghost or she is coming from another time. He asks her who she really is. Brian then asks her what year she is living in. Nora replies, 1960. Brian is shocked and tells her that he is living in the year 2010. This makes everything clear. Nora can time travel from the past to the present and sit on the garden bench, but she cannot touch the flowers or plants. Brian says that the garden is dry and dead in his time, but in Nora's eyes, the flowers look fresh and fully bloomed because she is seeing the garden as it was in 1960 when she took care of it with love. Just then, Thomas calls Nora from inside the house and she quickly runs back inside. The next morning in 1960, Nora and Frank are working in the garden together. While working, Nora keeps thinking about Brian. She wonders what his name is, whether she will meet him again, and why she feels so connected to him. Suddenly, she notices Thomas watching them from the window. It is clear that he is doubting her again. This makes Nora very angry. She goes to Thomas and shouts at him, "Don't you feel ashamed? You keep doubting your own wife and spying on her all the time." Thomas makes an excuse and says he was only checking if the work was being done properly. Then he walks away. Nora feels deeply hurt. She thinks about how painful her married life has been. Thomas always doubts her, taunts her, and never trusts her. She has tolerated all this for a long time, but now she is completely fed up. So Nora writes everything she feels in a letter. She pours her pain, fear, and emotions into it. She hides the letter inside the furnace and somehow manages to send it to Brian. When Brian reads the letter, he understands everything. Nora and Thomas fell in love very quickly and got married without really knowing each other. After marriage, Nora slowly realized Thomas's true nature. Nora also writes that she doesn't even know who Brian really is, whether he is a ghost or something else. Still, she feels a strange connection with him, which is why she trusted him and wrote the letter. Now it is Brian's turn to reply. He could meet Nora in the garden and talk to her, but if Thomas sees them, it could become dangerous. So Brian decides that it is safer to communicate only through letters. The special thing is that Nora's locket is what connects them across time. Slowly through letters, they start knowing each other better. They understand each other's feelings. Brian keeps waiting for Nora's letters so eagerly that even at the office, he keeps thinking about when he can go home and read her next message. One day, Nora suddenly becomes very sick. She gets a high fever and severe headaches. Her illness is something that had no proper treatment in 1960, but by 2010, medicine for it existed. The doctor in 1960 says that the rash on her hand shows an infection and that there is no proper cure for it. But Thomas behaves very carelessly. He says that she works with plants all the time and must have been bitten by an insect. He tells the doctor to give any medicine and leaves, showing that he doesn't really care what happens to Nora. Day by day, Nora's condition becomes worse. Meanwhile, Brian stops receiving letters from her. He becomes very worried and sad, wondering what has happened to her. Even in her weak condition, Nora somehow writes one last letter to Brian, explaining her symptoms and asking if there is any treatment for this illness in the future. Brian immediately goes to his doctor friend and explains all the symptoms. The doctor says it is a common illness and that medicine is available for it. Brian asks him to write down the medicine names, but only those that existed in 1960. The doctor is shocked and thinks Brian has lost his mind, but Brian insists and tells him not to ask questions. Finally, the doctor mails him the prescription. Brian writes the medicine names in a letter and sends it to Nora. With Frank's help, Nora goes to the doctor in Frank's truck and asks him to prescribe those exact medicines. The doctor hesitates, saying the medicines are new and not fully tested. But Nora insists, saying a doctor friend from abroad recommended them. The doctor finally agrees. Nora starts taking the medicines and slowly begins to recover. However, she is put on complete bed rest, so she cannot write letters anymore. On the other hand, Brian becomes extremely restless. Not hearing from Nora makes him anxious and scared. He keeps wondering whether the medicines worked and what might have happened to her. Meanwhile, in 1960, the doctor tells Thomas, "Can you tell me who Nora's doctor friend is? The medicines he suggested worked very well. I even gave them to 2 other patients, and they also recovered." After hearing this, Thomas becomes very angry and suspicious. He starts talking to himself. Who is this doctor? Who is Nora's friend? And why is he helping her so much? She must be having an affair with him. On the other hand, in the present time, Brian has been sitting quietly in his office for many days, looking sad. Elena comes to him and says, "Sir, there is good news. Since you joined, the company has started making good profits." But Brian doesn't look happy at all. He misses Nora badly because he hasn't received any letter from her for a long time. That evening, when Brian reaches home, he suddenly sees Nora sitting on the garden bench. He becomes very happy and runs to her. He asks, "Where were you? Why didn't you write to me? Do you know how much I missed you?" From his words, it is clear that Brian has fallen in love with Nora. Nora smiles and says, "Because of the medicines you sent, I am completely fine now." They sit together and talk. Brian asks about Thomas. Nora replies that Thomas has gone to another city for work. She then opens her heart and says that Thomas has been torturing her emotionally because of his constant suspicion. Her life has become miserable. She tells Brian, "Talking to you is the only thing that gives me peace. When I talk to you, my heart feels light." Brian says that maybe it is because of the magical locket that they are able to meet across time. Nora replies that her grandmother used to say that when someone holds this locket, the person their heart loves comes into their life. She says that through this locket, her grandmother met her grandfather, and her parents also met each other. She adds, "Now that the locket is with you, it means you will meet the woman you love." Hearing this, Brian becomes sad. Why is Nora talking about some other woman when she herself means so much to him? The truth is that Nora also loves Brian, but she is already married. In that time, divorce was very rare, and no matter how badly Thomas treated her, she had no choice but to stay with him. Both of them understand this painful truth. Then Nora asks Brian, "I don't know if this garden will even exist after 60 years, but will you plant flowers here for me?" Brian agrees. The next day, he prepares the area near the bench and plants flowers there. Brian starts believing that Nora from the past might still be alive somewhere. If she is alive, he wants to meet her. He searches old phone books and finally finds an address under Thomas's name. He goes there and asks, "Are you Thomas, Nora's husband?" Thomas replies with a shocking truth. He says that Nora died many years ago in a fire accident. He asks Brian how he knows Nora. Hearing about Nora's death, Brian is completely stunned. Thomas explains that the fire happened in their old house, the same house where Brian is currently living. Now Brian starts thinking about how he can stop Nora's death in the past. He asks Thomas for details about the accident and says that he can save her, but Thomas laughs arrogantly and says, "She was my wife. She is dead. Her story is over. Which mental hospital have you escaped from that you think you can change the past? Leave now, or things will get ugly." At that moment, Brian realizes something very clearly. No matter how many lives this man lives, his cruel and arrogant nature will never change. In the next scene, Brian starts asking people in his office about the fire accident that happened in his house many years ago. Everyone knows something about it. Some heard stories from their parents, others from their grandparents. Different people remember different details. Then one staff member shows Brian a website. That website lists all the major accidents that happened in this area in the year 1960. From this website, everything becomes very clear. How the fire started, how Nora died in that fire, and how her husband Thomas survived. After reading all this, Brian makes a firm decision. He decides that he will somehow send this information to Nora and save her life at any cost. He has fallen deeply in love with her, and he cannot let her die like this. Just then, a new problem appears. Brian's ex-fiancée suddenly comes to meet him. She apologizes and says, "I broke the engagement in anger. I didn't understand you properly. Please forgive me and accept me again." But Brian is not interested at all. His mind is only on Nora. He tells her politely, "I have a lot of work right now. We can talk later." But she refuses to leave him alone. Brian also cannot completely stop her from coming to his house. And because of this, Brian knows that if she stays around, it will become difficult for him to meet Nora. Still, he has no other option, so he brings her to the house. Now the scene shifts to the year 1960. Nora and Thomas are sitting together and eating dinner. Thomas is very angry. He again starts asking Nora about that doctor friend. "Tell me clearly, is that doctor a man or a woman? And what is your relationship with him?" Then he remembers that Frank took Nora to the doctor, so he starts suspecting Frank as well. His anger keeps increasing. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door. Nora gets up to open it, but Thomas stops her and says sarcastically, "At this late hour, which lover of yours has come now? I will open the door myself." He opens the door and Frank is standing outside. Seeing Frank, Thomas becomes furious, but he controls his anger and speaks calmly. "What is the matter, Frank? Why have you come so late?" Frank replies honestly, "Madam Nora said the garden work must be finished this week. I needed to buy some materials, so I came to ask about it." Thomas laughs angrily and says, "Oh, really? And you found only nighttime to talk about garden materials?" Then he turns to Nora and says, "Dear, you stay inside. I will talk to Frank for a while." He takes Frank outside and shuts the door. Thomas angrily asks Frank, "You were the one who came here that night too, right? Tell me the truth." Frank replies, "No, sir. I did not come that night. I have already told you many times." Thomas shouts again, "Then who gave Nora that prescription?" Frank answers calmly, "How would I know? I only took Madam to the doctor." Thomas becomes more aggressive. "So why did you take her? Was her husband dead that you had to escort her?" Frank replies respectfully, "Please don't say such things. You were not at home. Madam was alone and sick. She requested me for help, so I helped her. There is nothing wrong between us." But Thomas refuses to listen. At that moment, Nora comes outside and says, "What are you doing? Please stop this drama." In anger, Thomas hits Frank hard and shouts, "If I ever see you near my house again, using gardening or any excuse, I will kill you." Frank could easily fight back. He is strong enough, but he doesn't. Instead, he says, "You are very lucky to have a wife like Nora. If it were some other woman, she would have left you long ago. You are a very cheap and small-minded man." This makes Thomas even more angry. Now Nora finally explodes. She shouts at Thomas, "Today you crossed all limits. With your constant suspicion, no woman can live with you. Not just me. I don't know what bad moment made me marry you. After marriage, I haven't lived peacefully for even one day. Because of you, my life has become hell." She adds firmly, "Food is kept inside. Eat quietly if you want. Otherwise, stay hungry. But please leave me alone and give me some peace." After saying this, Nora goes and sits on the garden bench. She breaks down and starts crying silently. In the future, Brian is standing in the kitchen with his ex-fiancée. From Brian's behavior, she slowly understands something. She realizes that Brian is no longer in love with her. His heart is somewhere else, with someone else. Brian quietly leaves the kitchen and walks toward the bathroom. Outside in the garden, Nora is sitting on the bench, crying. Brian carefully removes his shoes and walks softly so no one hears him. He sits near Nora and gently asks, "What happened? Why are you crying?" Nora tells him everything. She talks about Thomas, his anger, his doubts, and how badly he treats her. Finally, she says, "I can't tolerate this anymore. I am going to divorce Thomas." Brian comforts her and says, "Listen to me. I have met Thomas in the future. He is very old now, but his nature is exactly the same. He never changed." Then Brian tells her a shocking truth. "You are going to die in a fire accident in this house." Nora gets scared. Her hands start shaking, but Brian holds her emotionally and says, "Don't panic. I am here. I will not let anything happen to you." He explains, "The accident will happen within a week, so please go somewhere far away for 1 week. Just stay away from this house." Nora trusts Brian completely now. She has fallen in love with him. Both of them become very emotional and move closer to each other. But sadly, because they belong to different timelines, they cannot touch each other. Just then, Thomas shouts from inside the house, "Nora, why are you outside for so long? Come inside right now." Before leaving, Nora looks at Brian and says, "I will go away for 1 week. During this time, we won't be able to meet, and I won't be able to write letters either. Please wait for me. I will miss you a lot." Nora goes inside the house and starts packing her bags. Thomas sees this and angrily asks, "Where are you going? Are you running away with that Frank?" Nora replies firmly, "I can't live with you anymore. Enough, Thomas. I want to go somewhere peaceful. Please leave me alone." But Thomas becomes violent. He forcefully locks Nora inside the room. Nora starts screaming, "Thomas, please open the door. A fire is going to happen here. I will die in it. Please save me." But Thomas does not listen. Even if he hears her cries, he does not care. Meanwhile, in the future, Brian's ex-fiancée starts looking through Brian's belongings. She finds the letters written by Nora and understands that Brian is in love with a woman named Nora. But she does not know that Nora is living 50 to 60 years in the past. Then she picks up the locket. By mistake, it slips from her hand and falls into the furnace. Brian never used that furnace because it was through that furnace that Nora's letters reached him. But his fiancée doesn't know this. She lights a fire inside it. The locket starts burning. At the same time, in the past, smoke begins to rise from the furnace and slowly fills the house. The smoke goes straight toward Nora's locked room. Nora starts panicking. She thinks, "Is this the same fire that is going to kill me?" She keeps screaming for help, but Thomas sits there calmly, doing nothing, not caring at all about Nora's life. In the past, Nora is screaming for help. At the same time, in the present, Brian can hear her screams clearly. Brian panics. Without thinking, he runs toward her to save her. But something unexpected happens. Brian suddenly enters the past. Because of this, Thomas is able to see him, and you can already guess what is going on in Thomas's cruel mind. He shouts angrily, "Who are you? Have you come to meet my wife?" Brian loses control. In anger, he punches Thomas very hard. Thomas falls to the ground immediately. Brian starts searching everywhere for Nora. When Nora hears Brian's voice, she feels hope again. She shouts loudly, "Brian, I am here. Please save me." Brian finally finds her room. He breaks the door open and pulls Nora out safely. At this moment, Brian and Nora are together in the past, but Thomas is not finished yet. He gets up, holds a shotgun, and points it at both of them. Brian and Nora beg him to stop. They try to explain, but Thomas does not listen. Just as Thomas is about to shoot, something shocking happens. Brian and Nora suddenly disappear right in front of his eyes. Brian returns to his own time. This happens because the locket is burning in the furnace. Brian quickly pulls it out, but it is already damaged. Because of this damage, the locket loses its power. Now Brian can no longer travel through time. He cannot go back to Nora, and he cannot meet her again. Brian becomes very angry and shouts at his ex-fiancée. She finally leaves him and breaks all ties with him. But now Brian is confused and heartbroken. He does not know whether he truly saved Nora or not. He saved her from the fire, but he doesn't know what happened after that. Did she survive Thomas or not? Everything is unclear. Brian decides to check the phone book again. He thinks that if the past has changed, then the present must have changed too. And suddenly he finds a phone number registered under Nora's full name. Brian immediately calls the number, gets the address, and rushes there. When he reaches the house, he finds it locked. He asks the neighbors, and one woman tells him that Nora now lives in a nursing home. Brian goes straight to the nursing home. There, a staff member points toward an elderly woman sitting on a bench in the garden and says, "That is Nora." Even after so many years, Nora still finds peace sitting in a garden and looking at flowers. Brian takes a bouquet of flowers and slowly walks toward her. When Nora sees him, she looks at his face carefully. Suddenly, her face lights up. She says softly, "Brian, is that you?" For Brian, he met Nora just yesterday, but for Nora, many years have passed. After almost 50 years, she is seeing Brian again. With tears in her eyes, she says, "I always knew that one day while searching for me, you would finally come." Both of them feel extremely happy meeting again. Brian gives her the locket back. Then Nora says something very emotional. "I loved you, Brian." Now the truth is revealed. In this changed reality, Nora survived the fire accident, but Thomas died in that same fire. After Thomas's death, Nora waited for Brian for many years, but Brian never came back. During that time, Frank supported Nora a lot. Slowly they grew close, and Nora married Frank. She lived a peaceful and happy life with him. Just then, an old man walks toward them. It is Frank. He is very old now. At the same time, a young girl comes running and calls Nora her grandmother. She looks exactly like Nora, like her reflection. She is Nora's granddaughter. It seems that Nora had told her many stories about Brian. As soon as the girl sees Brian, she feels strangely connected to him. She doesn't understand why. Nora smiles and explains, "This is because of the locket." She then gives the locket to Brian and says, "Please put this on my granddaughter. If you like her too, that would make me very happy." Brian gently places the locket around the girl's neck. Then both of them start walking together, enjoying the beauty of the garden. And with this beautiful and emotional moment, this sweet fantasy love story comes to an end. If you like this story, please like and share the video. We will meet again in the next one. Till then, take care of yourselves, because that is very important.